The Love, Life, and Lose Weight podcast will teach you the art and science of changing your habits around food. If you know what to do, but can't figure out why you're just not doing it, this is the right podcast for you. I'm your host, Advanced Certified Weight and Life Coach, Heather Beardsley. I've helped hundreds of women just like you figure out how to think and eat like a normal eater, lose weight, and love life on the journey to goal weight and beyond. Hey, welcome to a mini podcast. I thought I would do one podcast, a quick one, to give you the resources that I often give a lot of my clients. I spent time thinking about how my clients can start responding differently when they find themselves having urges to eat outside of their cues for hunger and stopping at enough. So this would be thinking that you want to eat something, but noticing you're not hungry, or thinking that you want to keep eating if you've noticed that you are already physically satisfied and hopefully emotionally satisfied too. Or maybe you're not emotionally satisfied, but you know that you're physically satisfied and your brain is saying, let's just keep eating. Success so much depends on having tools at the ready in those moments that you can access to start to respond in these moments differently. As soon as you start responding differently, you'll start feeling differently. And when you start feeling differently and responding differently, that's when habits start to change. So, just to back it up, if you're just eating without awareness of being hungry or whether you're already physically at enough, that's the first level of work that you need to work on before you employ these strategies for how to respond to urges to overeat. And it makes sense because if you're not aware that you're overeating, you're just eating, how can you intervene with a different response? So the first step is to work on your awareness. Instead of just grabbing food, instead, making it your mission to check in internally in your body and develop criteria for noticing what it feels like when you're hungry and only eating when you sense that you're hungry, physically hungry. And as you're eating, developing a way for you to periodically check in to see whether you have reached a point of physically enough or physical satisfaction. And if you follow your internal cues for when and how much to eat, and you use your agency in the world to decide what you want to eat, because everybody's different, then you have the foundations in place to start to use better responses when you have urges to overeat. And that's what I'm talking about on this mini episode. So I've got a whole bunch of good responses that you can practice thinking when you're having urges to overeat. So again, that means thinking that you want to eat when you're not hungry, and or if you want to keep eating once you've already passed a sense of satiety or enoughness. Okay, I'm just going to read them out to you. They will be printed out on my Instagram post for this episode number 60. And you can copy it there, or I'll tell you what, I'll write them down on a document, store it in Dropbox. And if you want a copy of these, you can just go to my Instagram post on episode 60. And let's have you type in the word list. So if you just type in the comment list, I will send you a link for you to get the list, and you'll be joining my email list when you do that. Okay, sound like a deal? Let's start with good, better, and better responses to urges to overeat. Number one is this will taste even better when I'm hungry again. Number two, it tastes so good and overeating won't allow me to enjoy this any more than I already have. That's a good one. If I stop it enough, I'll be able to have it again the next time I'm hungry, which will be sooner than if I overeat now. Plus, I'll be proud of myself. Let me read that again. If I stop it enough, I'll be able to have it again the next time I'm hungry. So that's like responding with it's not a no, it's just a not right now response. And knowing if you don't overeat now, you'll be hungry, you'll get hungry sooner than if you overeat right now. Plus, meeting this moment and choosing not to overeat means I'll be proud of myself. Such a good one. That was number 3. Number 4, I've already decided on this issue. And that just means like I've already decided I'm not overeating. Like overeating doesn't serve me, right? So you just say, no, I already decided I'm not doing this today. And then, for a lot of my clients, I say, decide when you want to overeat. My clients are all working on, or they've already identified how many times they can overeat and still lose weight. So if this is a particular time when you've decided you're overeating, it's a non-issue, right? But if you're having an urge to overeat and you said that your intention is not to, you just respond with, I've already decided on this issue. And you just close the door on the conversation. Kind of like you would ignore a toddler if a toddler is giving out, to his mom that he doesn't like the rule. You just ignore it. All right. Number 5. If I say yes to eating more right now, what am I saying no to? This is a great question to provoke saying both sides of the story about what overeating, should you choose to do it in this moment, will give you. So in the moment, there's always like some kind of perceived benefit. If there wasn't, you wouldn't want to overeat. But there's also usually hidden or more subtle negative consequences to overeating. So you might be saying, if you choose to overeat, if you say yes to overeating right now, what are you saying no to? Well, you're saying no to following your plan. You're saying no to showing up the way that you want to. And you could possibly be saying no to losing weight this week as well. Depends on how often you've been overeating, and hopefully you've been tracking that. Okay, we're on number 6. This is my chance to practice a new habit. I mean, that feels like interesting, doesn't it? This is my chance to practice the new habit. Like the actually doing that and sitting through an urge or distracting yourself doing something else. Yeah, it's going to cost you something because it's always going to feel easier to do the old habit, which is to just overeat because you have a thought to do it. But again, practicing the new habit is something that you can attach feelings of pride to and effort that have rewards attached to them. So you can kind of think of it in an anticipatory way. This is my chance to practice a new habit. Number 7, I want it, but I also want to lose weight this week. Right? So this one acknowledges and validates that the urge is real. Like, yes, I have an urge to eat, but indulging in this urge takes away something else that I also want. So what do I actually want more? Again, it provokes you to tell both sides of the story and really speak the whole truth about what it is you're considering, not just the sexy part of the immediate gratification of overeating for many of us. And here's the good news. You practice this long enough, and let me tell you, the allure of overeating becomes less and less and less over time because you're kind of building the case for why overeating never benefits you. So that's interesting too. I struggle much less with urges than I used to because I did these good responses to urges. I really questioned them like they were witnesses. I was cross-examining them, right? That's what your urge provoking thoughts are about, right? They're just a perspective. and your brain is sending them up to you because your brain thinks that's what you want. Your job is to get the message to your brain that overeating is never something that you want to do as a strategy for life. Like sometimes we just overeat, it happens and it's fine, and that will never cause a weight problem. Overeating as a strategy to cope with life, right? Or to relax or do things that food can't give you, that is something that, doesn't work. So for those of us who want to lose weight anyway, right? All right. I will meet the discomfort of stopping now, or I will meet the discomfort of having overeaten tomorrow when I kind of obsess how I ate the day before. Either way, it's uncomfortable. So just notice that your brain, in the moment you have the urge to overeat, will kind of imply that it's just all good to do it. But you want to remember there's always that other side of knowing that you showed up in a way that isn't aligned with weight loss. So choose your hard. There's no free pass out of hard, especially when we're talking about changing habits. So you can either delay the hard thing by giving into the urge now, or you can work with the hard of the moment of sitting with the urge and doing the work to distract yourself in another way, or just let the urge be there. Okay, the next one, of course, it tastes good. If I put it away now, I get to enjoy it again tomorrow. So again, that's like, it's validating. Yes, it tastes good. Of course, I want more. I can put it away now and I get to have it again later. So what this does, this response tells your brain there's no shortage of this food. It's just there is an amount at which the benefits of having it start to become negative consequences. So as long as I can keep the amount that I enjoy this to equate to feeling physically satisfied, I can have it as much as I want to. I mean, what does your brain do when you think about that? It's true. And the more plentiful something is, and the more we know we can have it as often as we want, the more our desire for it normalizes. And it goes from over desire to normalized desire, regular desire. I told this story in my book about how I used to spend the night at my cousin's house and they were allowed to have all these sugary cereals that were like forbidden in my house growing up. My mother was more like um, health conscious in terms of like healthy foods versus unhealthy foods. And that was the conditioning I got. So when I got over to my cousin's house, I was like obsessed with all the cereals they had to offer me in the morning. My aunt is so nice. She would pour me like 4 little bowls or 5 little bowls so I could sample everything. And then she would send me home with a box. Talk about, you know, over desire for food because of a perceived lack of supply. So if you feel like you have this going on with yourself and your perception of certain foods being in low supply because you don't give yourself permission to have them a lot, the solution for you, paradoxically, is to plan to have them more often and really practice normalizing having them when you're hungry and stopping when you're satisfied, when you've had enough. Okay. Um, so the last one was yes, it tastes good, but so does going to bed knowing I've had my own back today. The next one, food can't make me feel better. Only my thoughts can do that. I love this one. This one really dispels the magical properties we oftentimes give to food. Food never makes you feel a certain way. Think about, I mean, we know this is true because somebody could love brownies and the next person could totally hate brownies. There's just a particular taste profile and texture, temperature, right? In your mouth. And your perception of that being good or bad is up to how you think about it. There are some people who can't stand like nuts and brownies because of the texture of the crunch. They hate it. And that's particular to them. And that's creating their own sense of like desire or repulsion with food. And so when you know that you have control over your perceived desire for food, you can start to program in focusing on how you want to feel by how you think rather than thinking eating food or drinking alcohol gives that to you. Food sliding down your throat doesn't make you feel an emotional feeling of relief, for example. But if you have an old habit of associating overeating with relaxation, that is what is creating the relaxation. It's your thoughts about the food and what it gives you. So you're giving it magical properties. Okay. Food can't make me feel better. Only my thoughts can do that. So this, you can pair this good response with some pre-work before you eat. Just do a check-in and notice, are you looking to feel better by eating? And if so, then you've muddied the waters of what food can do for you. Food is fuel for your body, and it will give you some dopamine and serotonin from what it offers your brain, right? We get a neurological payoff from eating because the primal body wants to encourage us to keep feeding ourselves by giving us those good feeling neurotransmitters in our brain. So that will happen, right? However, if you feel tired and exhausted and you're thinking that food will give you energy, well, like emotional energy, you can't do that, right? It can give you physical energy, right? And your cells. But if you're tired, is that really what you need? Or do you just need to go to bed? Right? Why aren't you just resting rather than eating and asking your body to go through and digest food? So these good responses to urges to overeat are really thought provoking. Hopefully you're doing more than just like repeating them, which I encourage that you do. Like just say them as often as you can, write them down, practice them so that when you meet the moment when you're having an urge to overeat, some come to mind or you have it in a place that's easy to access. Maybe you keep it by the table and you can practice some of these as you come to the table. Okay, so food can't make me feel better. Only my thoughts can do that. So do a check-in. Are you looking to feel better? Okay, well, what's the issue? You know, maybe do some journaling before you eat and identify like how you're feeling and just kind of like lean into that and ask yourself, well, what would I truly need to be thinking about what's happened in order to feel better before I put myself in a position to eat over it? Right? That's just setting yourself up for success. Okay. Next one. What do I really need right now to feel better? Am I tired, stressed, overworked, or need to give myself a break? Again, this goes with what I was just saying for the thought before. Do an emotional check in if you know you're about to eat and you tend to eat to feel better. Do the emotional work before you sit down. Inquire, be curious. Act as your own personal assistant who's there to help you through challenging times. When we lean on food to do all that work for us, it just is going to fail because food can't do that work. That's an internal process. So do a little bit of that legwork before you eat. Again, the thought is the good response is, what do I really need right now to feel better? And you'll think this when you're having an urge to eat when you're not hungry or overeat. Am I tired, stressed, overworked, or need to give myself a break? So, for example, let's say you've had your dinner, you've noticed you are at the right amount of enough, and you're having urges to keep going and finish the food on your plate. Well, ask yourself this question: what do I really need right now to feel better? What am I really looking for if I'm not hungry anymore? What am I looking for to feel better that I'm thinking food is going to give me? What am I after? Identify that. And then maybe just take a pause, journal on this, try to identify it and identify some solutions for how you can feel better. And just say, if I still want the food after I do that, then I'll have it. But I deserve to kind of know what's going on underneath the hood of my urge. Okay. Next one. Can I acknowledge my needs beyond what food can give me right now? Again, this is another version of emotionally checking in with yourself. Sometimes it's like we need to practice seeing ourselves as physical beings that have needs, like real emotional needs on a day to day basis. We aren't just machines that are expected to perform and produce outputs in our day. We're sentient feeling beings. And we need to validate our own internal experience, our own internal world. This is how I feel right now. It's because blah blah happened. You know, um, this is what I'm making it mean. And this is what I'm looking for. Right? Do some of that work. And, if you want further work on this, hire a coach to help you. Because a lot of times we can't really see our habits underneath what we notice is a pattern of overeating. And that's where coaching can really help. Okay, last one. Oh, sorry, there's two. The price of learning how to change habits is my willingness to be uncomfortable for a while. I love this one because it really does normalize what we try to avoid in allowing urges, which is the sense of discomfort of this like restless wanting something, being kind of caught up in the urge and just telling yourself you're not going to give in to the urge by rewarding yourself with food. And that the price of that is discomfort. But what I want to say about this is willingness to be uncomfortable is the price we pay for changing habits. And if you think about it, even if you're just giving into urges right now all the time, well, that's also uncomfortable, isn't it? So you're just swapping where you're feeling discomfort. If you're just giving into urges all the time, it's in how you're seeing yourself. It's your frustration with your seeming like lack of progress. Like you're wanting to lose weight, but you're not aligning how you eat and your habits and your lifestyle around food to create the change that you're looking for. That's really uncomfortable. Whereas if you agree to kind of front load your discomfort with, here's my urges, this is where I overeat, I'm going to sit with these and just know that it won't always feel uncomfortable, but it's going to feel uncomfortable. And I'm willing to just sit here in discomfort right now. And then when I've successfully allowed the urge without overeating, then I can see myself as actively engaging with my desire to change my habits around food. And that feels amazing. Okay. Last one. I won't always feel this way about stopping the more I practice this skill. I won't always feel this way about stopping the more I practice this skill. And we do know that there's brain science to back this up. When we have resistance to doing something and we follow through with doing it anyway, it strengthens that area of the brain. I think it's called the anterior cingulate cortex. It's this idea of willingness to do hard things. And yes, the more you practice it, the more strengthened the skill set is. And if you think about it, everything that you want in your life is on the other side of being willing to do the uncomfortable work to get it, to show up at the gym, to get up a little bit earlier, to say no to urges, to really time block your schedule and prioritize your tasks so you feel like you're in charge of your time and your productivity at work, for example. These are all applicable. What you do in weight loss will help you in all areas of your life. So you could even see, like, all right, this one moment here, like not finishing what's on my plate because I know I've already had enough. This is a skill set that will help me with all these other things too. So you can kind of see yourself as being agent of change in your own life. I hope that these good responses to urges to overeat have been helpful for you. Again, visit me on Instagram at Thrive in Midlife. You can find the episode, I believe it's 60 post, the reel there, and just comment list, and I will send you a list of these all written out or a link for you to download them, and you'll be added to my email list. Okay. Thanks for tuning in. Stay focused, and so long. Hey, if this episode resonated for you, then let's connect. Visit hbeardsley.com/subscribe. That's HBEARDSLEY.com/subscribe and get on the list. You'll get a free gift, periodic coaching, plus advance notice of in-person events and workshops.